Showing up, just showing up when days suck, when sales suck, when no one shows up. You know, showing up when personal things happen, showing up when world things happen. You know, that is like the most important part of growing my business for me personally. Growing my business is I have showed up every day.
Main Street businesses are struggling as they face challenges nothing like we've seen before. You're listening to the Behind Main Street podcast. Let's learn from real-world Main Street entrepreneurs, pick their brains, and learn their secrets to navigate, persevere, and overcome all the modern obstacles they face every day. Get ready to peek behind the stories, the struggles, and strategies of today's Main Street entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Behind Main Street podcast. Here's your host, Chris J. Cardona.
Great day, everyone. Welcome to the show. Whether it's your first time listening or an avid follower, thank you so much for joining us. Show notes can be found at www.behindmainstreet.com. But before we get started, I would like to thank the sponsor for this episode.
Today's episode is brought to you by Thinkin' Local, a fundraising and giving-based marketing platform whose mission is to connect local Main Street businesses who care about making an impact in the local community with schools and nonprofits who believe in supporting their local businesses. Find out more by visiting local.com.
Awesome. Well, for today's episode, I'm super excited and honored to interview Jay Perez, a budding business mogul and CEO of EXUVUS. He's a finance pro, a coach, a big fan of Harry Potter, among other things. He has had a roller coaster entrepreneurial journey, and I feel blessed to be able to dig into his experience and insights and to pick on how he was able to always pick himself up and never let life get in the way of his vision. Jay, are you ready to take us behind the curtains and dig into your story?
I'm definitely ready to talk about Harry Potter, though. You had me at Harry. You lost me. You should not have said that because now it's all about Harry Potter. No,
There
but
you go.
seriously, no. I'm ready to share, give my 2 cents, and hopefully be as valuable as I can be.
Perfect.
Bring out the shovels. Let's dig for gold.
Awesome, Jay. So I've given our listeners just a little bit of a sneak peek of who you are. Why don't you tell them a little bit more about yourself and what it is that you do?
Let's see. I am, well, again, name is Jay. I am the CEO and founder of EXUVUS. We are a fitness mindset lifestyle brand that focuses on 3 core values. And I think those 3 core values are going to be highly talked about in today's podcast, but commit, execute, and conquer. And with those 3 core values, I've been able to, push past that roller coaster of a journey that you mentioned, but also built a community based off those 3 core values, which again, we are all on this journey to be the best version of ourselves, for ourselves, but not by ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, maybe you can tell me something interesting that your family or friends would say about you.
That I'm freakishly good looking, honestly.
That's awesome. All right.
Dang, what would they say about me? Man, I mean, okay, you know what? This would surprise people because I think, yeah, because only like my family would know this, is that I am as introverted as possible. Like I am an introvert to the core. Like honestly, I am the definition of an introvert. And I think I'm glad you asked this question because I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, young entrepreneurs, and I don't mean of age, I just mean of journey, whether they're 20 or 50, young entrepreneurs, they use being an introvert for the reason why they aren't succeeding. And I'll tell you right now. I mean, just a quick tidbit. My mom would threaten to love her, and she loved me. She did this for a reason. She threatened to ground me if I couldn't bring home a friend by I think it was
Wow.
8th grade or 7th grade. That's how bad it was. Like I didn't want to talk to anybody. I had no desire to. I was an introvert, and she literally looked at me right in my soul and said, I think she was just praying to God, like, please just bring home a freaking friend, please. You know what I mean? That's how much of an introvert I was.
Wow, I would not have, following you on social, all that
Yeah,
stuff. I would
exactly.
not have thought about that. Yeah, that's definitely something interesting. And to our listeners who may or may not know Jay, so when you follow
Yep,
him on his social media, like you got that little bit of an insight about him from himself.
yep. From myself and probably, like I said, from my close ones. When you see me twerking on Instagram, I am being just me. There's no fakeness, but in the end of the day, you know, we could talk about this, maybe some other time, but there is a scale of how much energy, it takes out of someone to talk to people. And on a scale of 1 through 10, talking to people, in person or running a company, it's a 20, it's a 30, it's a 40, it's a 50. Like it drains me, but you have to do it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, how would you describe your mission in life?
Mission life, honestly, man, I think, oof, that's gonna go down the rabbit hole. But if I could just like dial it down a little bit, it would be um to be well, I'll just use the commit, execute, and conquer, to use those three core values for anybody's everyday living, whether it's relationships, whether it's school, education, fitness, business. Like how I want to be the voice, or that the pathway for people to believe in themselves, whether it's because they're inspired by me, or whether they're inspired by the community, or whether they're inspired by people who were inspired by Exodus. I want to be that light, that beacon where people are like, you know what? If he can do it, I can do it. And trust me, guys, if I can do it, you can do it too.
That's awesome. What would you say then people misunderstand about Jay the most?
Um, oh man, you know what? I think because you got me in the right time, the right season of my life. I think people misunderstand my kindness. I am able to allow um BS from individuals, from other people, to stack up with a smile that can kill. But it's it's so funny. The more people think they're getting closer and closer to my inner circle, and because they're taking advantage, they think of my niceness. The farther to be honest with you, I'm technically getting away from them. They just haven't seen it yet, and then until the day happens where they're like, where did he go? It's like, I've been gone for a long time. You just haven't realized it. So I think people, misunderstand my kindness and my ability to be cordial. And yeah, again, like I could go down a rabbit hole in just that one alone.
Yeah, I think civility in today's society has almost gone by the sideways, right? Like there's no more civility, and for you to be able to, like being a brand CEO, building something, not just of a brand, but it's you have a lot of stuff going on within your brand itself. Being
Yeah,
able to be civil with people is one of the most important things that you need to have, even though sometimes you feel that you're surrounded by all this, like in your words, BS. But
yep,
you have to put up with it. But at the same time, people, like you said, sometimes you keep your, not necessarily your enemies, like they say, like you keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies closer. Not necessarily an enemy, but somebody that's like just like a leech and taking something from you that they
yes,
might not realize it, but you're aware of that for yourself.
yep, 100%, 100%.
Well, if you if there was something that you value most in your life, what would you say
Mhm.
that would be?
That's a deep one. Value most in my life. I think answering this question would come from giving you a little bit tidbit of like my journey of my roller coaster is support. I think I value right now in my life the most is support. And why do I say that? Because I did grow a brand, you know, pretty much out of the back of my car, and I did grow a brand for years before anyone who you thought, who you think like, oh man, like this person's definitely gonna buy something for me, or my family is gonna be my number one supporters, and my best friends, or whatever the case may be. And I didn't have that. You know what I mean? And I did and I didn't. I know the people who supported me, but they probably supported me, with the doors closed, in a sense. Like, they didn't want my failure. They wanted me to succeed, and maybe they just didn't know how to express it. But when you don't express it, I don't know what I don't know. So, you go on thinking like no one supports me. But my point is, but now I'm in a place where, I mean, you've seen, and a lot of people, the community is just growing so strong and so powerful in the culture. Like, I do not, and I don't think I ever will take that for granted, because as one individual, I'm just a CEO of a company. But as a whole, we together are, like I said, a community and culture, and I will never take that for granted. They are what I really cherish the most.
Most definitely. Well, like we've been talking about, you're doing a lot of different things, right?
Yeah,
I've been reviewing your videos online. A lot of the content that you put out a lot of great content. Even giving advice to prospective clients, prospective business partners. People that would use your gym as their own. When you let them and stuff like that. With all that stuff going on, a lot of us think a long term what our impact is going to be when we die, like years and years and years
yeah.
from now. But have you thought of your impact in the short term, like in 5 years or so?
Ooh, yes, I have thought about that, and I truly want people to, um, without getting too emotional. I've had people be in the gym for a week, maybe even a few days, in tears, telling me that they've had more support in this community, by me, than they have had in their year, 2, 3, 4 years of starting a business. And I think to myself that in 5 years from now, like, I want people to again, I want them to be able to say like, I started because somebody believed in me, or maybe even say Exodus believed in me. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not here to step on anybody. If a personal trainer came up to me and said, I want to open my own gym, I would sit down with them and tell them how I did it. If someone came up to me and said, I want to open up my or start my own clothing line, I would sit down and tell them how I did it. I don't, I'm gonna, a little shameless plug, but EXUVUS is the standard, right? So if someone wants to beat me, they're gonna have to work a lot harder than me. You know what I mean? So I'm willing to share everything I know, and I have testimonials that will back that up. But if I, like I said, long-winded answer, in 5 years from now and beyond, I want people to say that they are where they are because somebody like myself was willing to get, help them along their journey.
Absolutely. Well, my next question is, I sort of know part of the answer to this, but I'm curious to see um, what the rest is. So tomorrow, what's today? Sunday. So Monday morning, you wake up, you open your app, you open your bank account app, and you see $100 million on there. What would Jay
Yeah.
spend it on?
Shoot. Oh man, I would spend it on nothing but. No, I was gonna say something like Furbies or something. Just kidding. No, we already
Harry
know
Potter collectibles.
Harry Potter. I would go and buy the freaking like rights to Hogwarts or something. But no, no, I would. I'm sure you already know this, but I would get acres. We're talking maybe 50 plus acres of just land where I can build like an Exodus just town. Like, to have a just that alone, and that way when you go and you pull up to Exodus, it is an instant. Even now, I build that here, but I want it to be like instant flip of the switch. You're here to lift. You're here to be the best version of yourself. I want training facilities. I want entrepreneur facilities where people, because I mean, I think we lack that. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I know there's YouTube University, and there's nothing against that. That's where 90% of my knowledge comes from. But it would be nice to have a community, or a place where just I could tell you from A through Z what to do. You know what I mean? But then again, I also want. I not only do I want the training facilities in the front, and everything that it has to do with Exodus, but in the back of it all, I want my warehouses, my supplement warehouse, where I have my own workers, working on the formulas, and creating the supplements right then and there. I want my apparel warehouse where I have my own seamstress, my own pattern makers, marker makers, screen printers. And then, my Fast Bar Pro, which, again, shameless plug. But I want my own steel and welders and so when people ask like, Jay, where does your products come from? I want to proudly. I think this is what I really truly want to say one day. With everything in me, I want to say, just open the back door, and and I want people's faces to be like, holy crap, this guy, you know, is building a company ethically, morally, paying people what they're worth, um, giving jobs to people in the that live in the states and the U.S. And there's nothing wrong with anything else, but whatever other models out there. Without, I don't want to crap on anybody, but for me personally, I want to be able to proudly say that this is what I've accomplished through the business. Like I said, morals, ethics, giving jobs, paying people their worth. I cannot wait. I say that now. I can technically say that now, but I want to be able to be hiring people. You know what I mean? So that would be amazing. That's where that money would go to.
For sure, for sure. And I could definitely see that. An EXUVUS campus, basically.
An Exodus campus, a Campavis. Just kidding.
Campavis. There you go. There you go.
I just like adding of this to every word to see if it catches on. That's literally, so have fun with that, guys. Anyone who's doing that, like literally, I had a water bottle that said Exodus on it, and I was just like EXUVUS, instead of Vaz water, because it had the shape of Vaz, and that's kind of where that started. Like literally that, because I had a Vaz water shaped water bottle with Exodus on it. It just ever since that day, I've been saying of this and any word I could think of.
Well, tell us. I mean, I'm curious. Where does the EXUVUS name come from?
Oof. All right. So, well, I started the company a couple years ago, like 8, 9 years ago, and it was called Forge,
Hmm.
right? Because I was in a place in my life where I was like, man, I'm not gonna lie, I was just down in the dumps. Pity me, poor me, why me? Everyone hates me. I'm so lonely, and there was a lot of personal issues going on in my life, mentally, physically, emotionally. So I'm not here to dismiss that from anyone else, okay? But for me, I'm only talking about me. I had enough, and the only way to change when you have enough is to change the circumstances, right? To change what you're doing. So I had to change what I was doing, and I thought, I'm gonna start a brand. I'm gonna start something that just means something powerful. And forge, when you look up the definition, it means to mold or create through concentrated effort. And I was like, whoa, here we go. Deals with metals, steel. You heat up the metal and the iron or steel, whatever you're working with, and then you pull it out and you just hammer it into place. You give it the shape you want. And I'm like, man, that's life. You get thrown in the fire, and you're burning up, and then you come out and you get molded into the person you're meant to become. And so that's where Forge came out. And then after a couple years, I did get hit with a cease and desist because I wasn't taught that, hey, how to trademark, copyright, and all the whole shebang. So I had to give up the name. And but I was so attached. I just part of me just was killed. And so I kept the F. And I was like, how do I keep the F? How do I keep this logo? How do I keep, and mind you, the slogan back then was live heated, be formed, to play on those words.
Hmm.
Live heated meant to live with fire, live with passion, live with purpose. And then to be formed was to be formed in the best version of yourself. So that live heated, be formed, I was like, man, I like that. I like that. What do I do? So then I changed the name to BFRMD, which stood for be formed. So I was able to keep the logo, the F, and BFRMD. And honestly, with everything in me, it was a placeholder. I just didn't want to let go of it. I didn't want to let go of the name. And I was like, man, if I let go, like I honestly told myself I would never come up with something as good as I could. Like, I told myself that for months, years, honestly, because I kept B-Form for a couple years too. And actually, when I opened up this gym, I actually opened it up under B-Formed Inc. But as I was sitting here, I was by myself. It was like a late night. I don't even tell you how late it was or what day it was. I just was here by myself, and I was staring at it. I have a big like this banner right here. I have
Mhm.
one of B-Formed, and I just stared at it, and I just told myself, I'm like, if I don't let go of that name, it will forever be just a hole in the wall gym. I already knew B-Formed would always be a hole in the wall gym. Like everything in me told me that, and I was like, I need something more powerful. I need something more powerful. So um, that's where Exodus came about. So I wanted a word that meant to do. Like I wanted a call to action kind of word. And Exodus, or sorry, execute was the word that came up. I came out like I was like, man, execute. I want something that means like to execute. So I wrote down execute. Then I was like, all right, execute, that's cool. And I was like, but I was like, man, I was kind of putting my life into play. I was like, what did I do besides execute? And I was like, it just kind of came out. I was like, man, I committed. I was like, I committed to myself and I executed my commitment. So I wrote down commit. So I had that there. And then literally it was just, I was just reverse engineering what I wanted of a company. And so the next thing I did was I was like, all right, you commit, you execute, but why do we give up, right? I was just questioning myself, like, what happens when we give up? And I'm like, you know what? Because people use life as a trigger, to not do. I mean, I'm like, man, if you use life as a trigger, that is the worst thing you can do because life happens to you daily.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's the small things where I mean, how many times have we stubbed our toe and our whole day's ruined? Or someone cut us off in the freeway and we tell everybody, we call our whole family saying this a-hole cut us off and our whole day's ruined. You know what I mean? Or even to the bigger things, you lost your job and then your whole year's ruined. You broke up with this, your significant other, your whole year's ruined. You lost a loved one. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
when you use life as a trigger, you're just asking to be put in this cycle of never ending, like why me, poor me, pity me. And I'm again, my story may not be as powerful as someone else's story or circumstances. It's not. I'm not talking about comparing. I'm talking about, are you strong enough as a person when your life hits you in your journey? Are you strong enough to push through it, right? So that's where I wanted something that meant overcome. I was like, man, so typed in overcome, but I didn't like the word overcome. And I was like, I don't, it's not cool enough for me. So I typed it in and on the good old Jugal and what's the Invictus poem popped up. And I guess it means, not I guess, I know it means it's a poem about being unconquerable or undefeated. And I was like, that is it. I want a word that means conquer. Conquer the days you don't want to show up. Conquer the days that you have nothing but excuses, but you still do it anyways. So that's where commit, XU conquer came in. And then I was like, well, and it's funny. I even wrote down I wanted X's, V's, and Z's in my name. So that's what I wanted. And I was like, execute Invictus, execute Invictus. And I put it together and I was like, EXUVUS. So that's how I came up with it. And I wrote it down and I put it into USPTO. And I'm literally the only one. And watch out, Nike. I'm calling it. You guys heard it here today first, February 20th, 2022 at 4:38. I'm gonna go after companies like Nike in the next 20 years. Because we are the only. EXUVUS is the only EXUVUS in the U.S. and international. I didn't have to compete with anybody. I literally am the only EXUVUS that's fitness, lifestyle, brand. And again, I went on Nike and saw what they put, and I put the same thing. You know what I mean? So whatever, I will be untouchable when it comes to that. And that's the goal, and that's something I want to teach entrepreneurs how to do. You know what I mean? But so that's hopefully I wasn't too long winded on that, but that's where EXUVUS came up with. It was a whole reverse engineering what I wanted a company to stand for, and what I stood for. And that is where we were talking about before we got on here about the deserving. I went through hell and back, and because we're human, I was dumb enough to go back to hell and come back, and you know what I mean, and did it a couple times, but eventually I felt like I got to a point where I was strong enough to carry such a powerful message. I mean, commit, execute, and conquer, and calling your company the standard. Whew, you don't get that. You don't get to call yourself that or carry. You don't get to carry that kind of baton, that torch with you when you just start. It does not happen. I had to go through hell and back to even feel confident enough to get there. And I did, and here we are.
That's fascinating. And thank you so much for unpacking that for our listeners, because a lot of times, me included, I didn't know what EXUVUS meant, and I think, I knew what it stood for based on the brand that you've created, but now being able to give context to what kind of led you down the path of reverse engineering where you wanted to be, and kind of forming that, from being, being thrown a cease and desist to coming with a brand that's amazing, three six letter word, that is easy to remember, highly brandable. I think, me from coming from marketing, it's an
Yeah.
amazing it's amazing, right? It's just two syllables. So that's great branding on your part. Um, like, you touched on a little bit about your previous journey. I know we talked about partly, a little bit about that offline. Maybe you could give our listeners a little bit of a background of how your childhood was like when you were growing up.
Oh, that okay. My childhood. So I grew up on 2.5 acres. Okay. So, I was, I mean, I'm not comparing it to a farm because I already know there's people out there be like, you don't know what a farm. I don't. I'm just saying, like, I lived like it felt like a farm to me, chopping down trees, taking all day to cut the grass and edge it and weed whack it and pick up the weeds, the fire department coming up to make sure that we weren't fire hazards. So, and half the time we were a fire hazard, so we took like weeks to cut down weeds, and they're weeds. So after you cut them down, you blink and they're back up again. You're like, what? I just spent a whole month cutting you guys down. By the time you get from one end to the other end is already catching up again, growing. It's like, how do you keep up with that? But that built a lot of work ethic because my parents were very, hey, did you get your chores done? Hey, my dad was like, and the cool thing about my dad was he didn't expect me to wake up at 5, 6 in the morning to get the yard started if he wasn't going to do it.
Mm.
He was there with me, so, and I think that built a lot of, how do you say, it took out the resentment. Like most kids are like, well, why do I have to do it? I didn't have that. My dad was there, so I was like, growing up, I was like, why am I not doing it? Like he would be cutting the grass sometimes, and I would hear the lawnmower while I was sleeping, and I wake up real fast and change. And I you didn't have to tell me to do it. You didn't have to, and my dad didn't have to come. I think he knew the moment I heard a lawnmower, he was like, I was going to be out there. Hey, dad, what do you need help with? So I think growing up in that, that kind of lifestyle, it built a lot of work ethic, and then my mom, or even I'll go back to my dad, even in sports, I'm a small guy, I'm 5'8", but if you look on my Tinder profile, I'm 5'11", but no, I'm kidding. I don't have a Tinder profile, but my point is I'm a short guy. I'm a short guy. But I was a small kid, so, but I was good, and I was even looked at in sports because my dad instilled a work ethic in me. It was he didn't care if I wasn't babied because I was a son. It was, if anything, I got more of the tough, super tough love. So again, growing up, I had the work ethic. I had the mindset to be the best version of myself already because it was sports. And then again, my parents weren't really straight A's, but my mom was in charge of the grades, and I was lucky. My mom, or maybe my mom was lucky. I don't know, because school came easy for me at a certain point, and I just could pick up things so fast. Math was fairly easy for me. English was fairly easy for me. And until for a certain age where I just said I don't want to do this anymore. And I got lazy later on in high school, and I paid the price for it because when you don't use it, you do lose it. And I didn't use I didn't use my brain for a while, you know. But that's a different story for a different time. I just was like, I checked out too early in my life. But excuse me, no regrets because again, I'm here where I'm at where I am. But yeah, again, just a quick side story is that I owe a lot to my parents because it was they taught me how to get things done right away. And we knocked down a wall and built a wall in a day. My sister came with me, tore down one of these walls for 12. It was me and my sister, 12 hours. That's the kind of work ethic you don't get that. My sister is a small little thing and she was here tearing down walls with me. And then the next day, 2 days later, my dad comes and builds a whole office, in the warehouse, and we did that in 2 days. You know what I mean? I was blessed to have that work ethic instilled in me.
Fascinating. That's fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. when you were a kid, being able to have the background of parents that really kind of pushed the best out of you, right? Really
Yeah,
made you uncomfortable. I'm sure, as a kid, I had that experience with my grandpa. I grew up with my grandparents. My grandpa was really like pushing you to do something that you really didn't want to do.
yeah.
And I think that's something that you had. Um, did that develop like something like of a dream job for you when you were gonna grow up? Like, did was there something that your parents were kind of leaning towards, pushing you towards something, or did you kind of come up with like, oh, you know what, I want to be like this when I grow up, based on the experiences that I'm having now as a kid?
No, no, I don't know if it was experiences or just. Well, I mean, I guess it is. Everything's an experience, but it was. I was kind of being developed mentally and work ethic for to be a doctor. I wanted to
Mm,
be a reconstructive surgeon, and but I wanted to do deformities, like cleft lip or just things that even back then, even as a young age, I was very adamant on giving people confidence. And I went to took my bio classes, my anatomy classes, my chem classes, my physio classes, and at that time, I was during college years, I was living in my car and working. I would work from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Shower at the gym because I was living in my car. Then go to work or go to school from 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m. and then try having time to study and do work and then sleep like maybe 30 minutes. And I did that over and over again for a couple years. And eventually I'm not proud of it, and I'm very happy and super blessed that I never hurt anybody. But I did fall asleep behind the wheel 2 times and got in two bad accidents. And it was a I think during that time I was a realization that maybe what do you call it, that the doctor route wasn't for me,
mm.
our school wasn't for me. Or maybe I just put that in my head that school probably wasn't for me. You know what I mean? But either way, it's those incidences that you know that was like, all right, I need to find something else in my life.
Gotcha. Well, looking back at your childhood, was there something specific in your childhood that when you look back on, that you feel
Mm.
that sort of led you exactly to the point in your life that you are today?
Oh yeah, I would say one of my favorite times is was working out with my dad.
Mm,
And kind of was why I kind of was like, I like personal training, I like fitness, I like looking the best version of myself. I like to look good on summer. You know what I mean? I think because I shared such a passionate um, uh, moment with my dad when we had the gym and even sports. I think it was an easy second choice to go into the fitness industry, and that because of that decision, I became a personal trainer. But I wasn't satisfied working it for someone else, at a 24-hour fitness. So then I became a private personal trainer in a private facility, but I wasn't satisfied of not owning a gym. You know what I mean? And then so it grew. But because of that decision of like, what, I like to work out, and I like doing it with my dad. So that kind of did. If that had to, that was that moment right there.
fascinating, fascinating. So, you were in college, you're living in your car, going to school, got into those two accidents. Um, what would you say from that point in time? What was that turning point in your life that made you decide that, hey, you know what, because you were being a doctor and you had that accident, but there has to have been a specific moment that you may or may not remember, that you felt that that was a turning point in your life that made you change and kind of move to a different trajectory in your life, that that kind of pointed you to right now.
I mean, I guess I would have to honestly just go towards the accidents.
Okay.
Both times I was super lucky. Going over a center divider on one and getting T-boned on the other. I think it was how do you say, it was just literally. Literally, it was a do or die. Do I keep doing this, and do I die trying? You know what I mean? And I think I had to, and I'll be honest, I had to look at a third perspective, like the third point of view, because here I was, I was homeless, you know, at the moment, again, nothing against my family. It was pride. I want every listener and everyone in this situation to understand that sometimes pride and ego can keep you from, or make you do stupid things. You know what I mean? So I was living on my own in my car because of pride and ego. I was working full time. I was lonely. I was I don't mean to poop on anybody's feelings, and again, I don't ever want anyone to think I'm comparing. I'm talking about my life and my life alone, but I truly know what it means to be lonely. Like, I'm talking, I didn't have a phone for 6 months and no one even knew. Like, that's how many people reached out to me. I had 6 months phoneless and not one person knew I was phoneless because I had no one. I went to class, went to my car, went to my car, went to work. You know what I mean? I had 3 points of destinations, and that was it. And all 3 points, like, I was by myself, and I had a pain. I was hurt. I was crying myself to sleep at night because I just felt like, again, one, I just made the decision. Oh, I forgot to mention a professor. I missed a practicum. I actually missed a practicum, and that same professor, gosh, she probably hated me. I missed a practicum because I was an accident, and then the second practicum, I fell asleep on the cadaver. Pretty much, I was writing, and I kind of like nodded off, and I like my hand hit a cadaver. And if you guys don't know, that is the biggest no you can, like, they will expel you because you touch a, like, if you disrespect a cadaver, like, that is just, you just don't do that. But I was able to, like, kind of say, like, I fell asleep, and someone next to me was like, wow, he legit fell asleep standing up, but that was when the professor was like, maybe this isn't for you. And I think that is what led to me saying, like, maybe this isn't for me, so here I am, lonely, no one even knows I practically exist, working full time, homeless, and I just got told, and I just made a decision that the future that I'm working so hard for, that I'm literally almost died twice for, isn't for me. You know what I mean? And I think so. All that together just, led me to say, what do I want to be when I grow up? Pretty much. And I was already like 21, 22 years old, but I literally did ask that. I was like, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Who do I want to be? And what impact do I want to have? And that is kind of where Forge, and those thought processes, Forge came about. I was like, man, I am being thrown into the fire, and I am being molded into someone who can be better, and because I had that work ethic instilled in me, I didn't give up. And I think that, thank you to my family for putting that in me, because I think, I like to say I'm above average, but I think any normal, sane human would have been like, that's it. I'm giving up school. I'm gonna get a house. I'm gonna or rent an apartment. I'm gonna just work, and they would have been content with that. I was not ready to be content. You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, want to dive into that a little bit more. So you're in your car. You made this decision. I'm living in your car, and you're working full time. Did that allow you to sort of save up? That allowed you to start Forge? Is that
Yep. Yep.
what how that kind of came about?
Blessing in disguise, and I don't even know, it was like, divine, intervention. I don't know the word I'm looking for, like, god willing, pretty much, that I don't even know what I was saving for. I could have
Mm.
probably gotten an apartment. I mean, honestly, I was working full time, so I was making, and I was working nights, and so, but I didn't want to, for whatever reason, and even to this day, I could not tell you, like, why I didn't want to, why I was living in my car more comfortable, and 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 looking back, like, yeah, I was lucky to have had that whatever gut. And you know what? I pride myself in my gut instincts. I'm not I'm not saying I'm 100% right on my decisions, but boy, God gave me a gift of gut feeling, you know. So, but yes, the money saved up allowed me to buy my first shirts. The money saved up allowed me to, because again, when you're in the clothing industry, people forget that you buy the shirts, you get them screen printed, you have to ship them. Like there's a lot of costs that go into the whole thing. But fun fact, I didn't even do it the normal way. I actually did cut and sew right off the bat, which is different. So cut and sew, for those that don't know, is there's companies where they're called white label or blanks, where you can just throw your label on anything, right? And so when people say they have a clothing brand, that's usually 9 out of 10 times what they mean. I already off the bat was like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. Like I'm not settling for that either. So I went out and I went to LA and I handpicked fabric. And then I was making phone calls to people who can help me make patterns and my chicken scratch drawings into reality. And and so yeah, I went the most expensive way. But I can honestly probably say that is why I have a clothing brand, and I was already right off the bat worrying about quality over quantity. So again, I just instinctively made that decision.
Wow. Amazing. I think one of the biggest lessons for our listeners there is your process of stoicism, right? Like, kind of enduring the pain, enduring the hardship when, if you really think about it, you don't really have to, right? I think
Yeah,
that's the most important thing there, because like you were being you don't know, but you were being prepared for something bigger, something better than what you had at that particular moment in time. And
mhm,
a lot of us, when we're going through these trials and tribulations, sometimes self-made, sometimes not, but
mhm,
being able to recognize that you had something bigger for you, and then making that decision, that conscious decision, and then making the right decision at that moment to head into a new direction where you can use that stoicism, that hardship, the pain, all the stuff that you kind of built throughout those times that you were struggling, and then being able to kind of pivot your life and go for something that was bigger, like, cut and sew, like doing, starting a fashion brand and all that stuff. It's not easy to do, but also making the decision to do it that way takes a lot of guts, right? Because you're competing as a new player in the fashion space. My former job, my last corporate job, I was head of marketing for a lingerie company. So we did a lot of cut and sew and bras, custom, because of, we were a full figured, full busted line and things of
yeah,
that nature. So the expense of being able to work with fabrics in that capacity is extremely expensive, because it's not only material extensive, but it's also labor extensive,
yep,
right? And then I would assume you're not doing these things out in another country. You were doing them right here in America, so that adds another labor cost into something.
yep,
So being able to just, start a brand that way, I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to be able to kind of put your products out there in the market, being a brand new brand, and then putting your price tag over here when your competitors that are doing it the cheap way are
yep,
literally n- down here, not even seen on
yep.
the screen.
I trust me. I had many tearful nights when people would be like, I could just get it at Walmart. And I would just be like, no, you don't understand. I am, or people would be like, oh, I'll just go to Nike, and I'd be like, you don't get it. Nike, I don't want to get you shut down by Nike or anything, but like, they cost them 30 cents to make a shirt, guys.
Yeah.
30 cents. That means labor and fabric go into cost, and it costs Nike 30 cents to make a shirt. So I just want people to understand how much a person who's making that it is making off of a shirt that you are then spending $30 to $50 on. And so when people would say like, and it costed me $10 to $12 to make a shirt, and then on top of that, I would still charge only like $30. You know what I mean? 30, $35, because I was just trying to make my money back or double my profit. I mean, I was just trying to double my profit. And so when people were like, oh, I can, or when people were like, I'll support you. Can you give me free clothes and I'll support you? It's like, what? That's not support. That's not support. And and I'm a big advocate, even till today, that will, like I said, I'm the voice for entrepreneurs to let people know. Like I will say this out loud. Like for those who ask for free stuff, you need to get out of that entrepreneur's life because you have no respect for their hard work, their blood, sweat, and tears, for their product or service or craft. Because, like, how dare you? How dare you ask somebody for something for free when you go around and you are willing to go spend $100 on a pair of jeans, but you're gonna ask your young business owner, you know, for something for free. Like, how dare you? Like, I don't even know how society thinks that's okay, but whatever. I could again. I will go. I will rip a new one to someone who tries to who because I get on young entrepreneurs, and again, I don't mean of age. I mean of journey. Who ask me like, how do I give people for some? How do I tell people no? I'm like this. F to the no. That's how you say it. You know what I mean? Like no. Like you're not gonna give you something for free because you have no respect for me. So why am I gonna respectfully? I'll respectfully just gonna tell you no. You know what I mean? So anyways, there's that. There's that tangent for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think a lot of people that they do a different type of business, but being in fashion, margin is tough, right? Because like, depending on the type of business model that you would run, you could do the wholesale route, which a lot of fashion brands do, like even Nike does, right? They wholesale their stuff, so their margin is quite high. I mean, there's so many middlemen, right? They have like overstock outlets, to have private label outlets, to have direct to consumers and stuff like that. But for you, you only almost have a choice of, with such a small margin, 50%. People think like, wow, that's a lot. No, it's not. 50% margin is very tough because
Yeah.
things become out of season. Fabrics lose their colors, and dying,
Yep.
and there's a lot of that stuff that goes on, and you are sort of tied to being able to just sell direct to consumer. So that
Yep.
price that you're getting, people are selling at that price, like you said, producing stuff for less than a buck and selling it
Yep.
at 30, 40, $50.
It's crazy. Mind blowing margins. And, I don't even think I ever want to get there to those margins because then I would lose my integrity of my company. Like, there's no way I can ever make a unit or garment for $1. There's just no way because more often than not, that means the product itself, the materials to make it, costs more than the actual labor. You know what I mean? And that's kind of disgusting in my opinion. But I'm not here to knock anyone's method. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
it is what it
absolutely.
is.
Well, to each his own.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that to hear that you're sticking to your brand, you're sticking to the core ethos of what it is that Exodus is all about, and not a lot of young entrepreneurs are able to do that. A lot of us, when we're young in our entrepreneurial journey or brand company, we cut a lot of corners. We try to fit in,
Hmm.
to be able to fit whatever the other people's lifestyle or opinion is about us, so that they'll accept us. But for you
Yeah.
took a stand, and I think having that experience on your forged brand kind of gave you a lot more cojones, I guess, to
Yeah.
when you started Exodus, to have that thing like, know what, I had another brand, I gave that up, um and I'm building something new that you need to be able to appreciate, because I put blood, sweat, and tears to go
Yes.
from there to where I am today. So that
Yes.
alone is worth the 50% margin that you're paying over the whatever it is brand that you want to put on
Exactly.
your backs, basically.
Exactly. Oh, you said it. You said. I mean, and to make it, people understand. I do have promotional shirts, right? That are of blanks, but they're sold at a price of promotional shirts. And then I have my cut and sew because again, Exodus is still new. So, I one thing I do want to say is I learned my lesson that maybe cut and sew right off the bat probably isn't the way to spread a message, but it is the way to grow my company. You know what I mean? So I'm learning a little bit of it, but event like 90%, is going to be conso, and then the other 10% is promotional. But eventually, once Exodus is a household name, you best believe that 100% of it even down to like the socks will be cut and sew. Like there's just no way around that. Like that's the goal to have. But just build off of your what you said about the standard of like I had a standard. Not gonna name any names, but I have a standard even for my coaches, and I won't waver. Which is why I built, and even my community culture is growing so fast. I had a coach who literally, I told him like, hey, I don't like the personality you have. Like I'm here explaining the gym, showing you my passions, and you completely dismiss me. I'm like, that's not the culture I want. And respectfully, the coach messaged me and said, this isn't the gym for me because I have bougie clients and whatever, you know. And I'm like, to somebody would have said, no, I'm so sorry. I respectfully said, yeah, you are right. This gym is not for you and me. Not, and I told him, I was like, not that your clients wouldn't be accepted here. I go, but I would rely and expect you to set the standard. So there's no one who should be coming in here bougie anyways. You know what I mean? But it's so funny that I had one coach who was like, nah, I'm sorry. Your standards are just not what align with me. But then literally the next freaking day, all randomly, one of my coaches just randomly was just said, hey, I just want to thank you, Jay, for having this community, this great, and I posted it as a reel. If you look at my reel, it's a conversation of all my coaches just saying like that, and they didn't know anything. They don't know anything about that. That's my private stuff. They don't need to know who the coach was or who it was I'm talking about, but or who I'm, what I mean? They didn't know anything of that. They just randomly, like literally the next day, and I just had a plethora of just all my coaches just saying like this is the best gym, like only gym I like, and it just was like I'm like, and that is why I'm so confident keeping my standards because one person may not like it, but I'm not gearing it towards them. I'm not. They're not my clientele. My clientele is the people who will appreciate what I'm trying to grow.
Yeah, and whenever we build something, we build a business. We're not building it for the whole world, for everybody. This is not a
Yep,
mass
exactly.
consumption commodity product. This is your brand is your brand, and whatever ethos, whatever culture you're trying to build, that culture and ethos is the same people that you're also trying to attract and bring with you. Like if you notice a lot of brands, Under Armour attracts a different crowd than Converse, than Reebok,
Yep.
right? Than Adidas, or like End One back in the day. I don't know if End One is still around, but like Nike is
I think
as
I see
another
it.
thing.
It's gonna be
Mm.
the next champion. Watch, we end one and champion. But now all of a sudden champion. Watch, I can't wait. I cannot wait to laugh at the one artist or famous person that wears N one and makes it big. I'm just be like, you guys don't even
Yeah,
know.
exactly, exactly. Well, now let's go proceed with our podcast. Well, now that we've gotten to know your story a little bit more, are you willing and ready to go a little bit deeper?
I'm ready for it. Hit me with your best shot.
Well, Jay, what does being part of the local Main Street entrepreneur community mean to you?
Uh, just be. Can I just be like blunt and like honestly general?
Please.
Just being part of it. I mean, when you're surrounded by like-minded individuals, you wanna stay close to the fire. You know, I mean, when you're given opportunities like this, like you know, someone who's a smart business owner would take advantage of it, but at the same time, not only take advantage of it, but also want to be able to return the favor by providing as much value as you can. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. What it is. That's the truth.
For sure, for sure.
You know?
Um,
That's why hopefully the being on here just shows. Hopefully my story can inspire somebody. You know.
I'm sure it will. I mean, it inspires me just learning about your story. I mean, knowing a little bit about your background previously, but also kind of diving a little bit deeper. And that's why in this podcast, I've had guests where before the podcast they were like, Why so many questions?" Well, because it depends on the person that's listening to this podcast. I want them to take any piece of nugget, because sometimes, let's say 90% of it doesn't apply to them, but there's that 10% that they take away that will allow them to change someone else's life. And that's those golden nuggets are what the most important thing is. So being able to kind of expand on your journey, on your life, and things of that nature. Just like you talking about your journey, about just that little portion of you being in the car, right? That wasn't part of my question, but asking you about, well, what did you do with the money that you saved? Well, then it kind of brings something to somebody that's listening. Hey, like, if you ever dream of something big or even small, you need seed capital to be able to do it. You're going to either ask your friends for it, ask your parents, ask your significant other, get a bank loan, or you're going to have to save for it so you can have seed money to be able to start whatever it is that you're trying to start. So that's why being able to kind of go through these questions a little bit deeper is very important, in my opinion. Was growing up as a child, you're being pushed to work hard, have a great work ethic, and seeing this and going for a more, not being a doctor is not really corporate, right? You're almost like a specialist, right? Like you're like a hitman, like a sniper. You're being trained to be a highly specialized individual to save people's lives, right? Throughout that trajectory from your childhood, was being an entrepreneur on your radar at all as a child?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think I ever thought about owning a business. I definitely
Mm.
thought about owning animals, but not
And Harry
owning a
Potter.
farm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The only thing that on my mind growing up was being a wizard and owning a farm, like literally, but never a business. I didn't think about owning a business till like I was 22. Like that's the god honest truth, you know. I that that's kind of late, in my opinion. Like to even have that thought of owning a business, and especially, well, nowadays, every kid who has a TikTok thinks they're a business owner or something, but we're talking like 10, 12 years ago. Like I just, yeah, it's just weird. It's weird how late it wasn't. I was and the fun crazy fact is it wasn't even like a progression of like, hey, I'm kind of interested in being a business owner. Like, what does that look like? It was literally going to school, become a doctor, trying to be, make it, and then being told like probably not right now, it's not the best time for you, getting in car accidents, and then moping and pitying myself, that literally instantly switched to, what, I'm gonna start a brand, like crazy, So yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting, right? Like, because a lot of us, um, like there's like entrepreneurial bug that sort of I felt as a kid, right? You're always like trying to like make an extra buck here and there, and stuff like that. But for you, like that's why that's the most interesting, fascinating thing about your journey is you basically just flip the switch. Like,
Hmm.
today, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I know nothing about cut and sewn, getting
Nothing.
fabric, starting a brand. Know nothing about, like patenting my stuff. Then he's like, hey, I'm becoming a
I mean,
doctor, playing with
which just
cadavers, and then starting
yeah,
a fashion line.
more like falling asleep into cadavers, and then yeah, crazy. You know what? I don't think I've ever said that out loud. I think this is you heard it here first. Like it was instant. There was no I'm gonna own a business growing up. I had any passion of it. I don't think I even knew what the word entrepreneur meant. I just it was nothing. Like no hint at all until the day I was like I said, all these things happened, and I was just like, what happens if I start my own clothing brand? Let's do that. And
Yeah,
that's kind of how it started. Yeah, crazy.
was there any family at all that were in business at all?
Not that I could think of. If there was, they were very low key about it, but or maybe I didn't pay attention, But I don't. There was not someone who was definitely I don't think a business, savvy. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I'm a CEO. Nothing like that.
All right, all right. Well, okay, so you wake up, you have a brand, you have a company, you're the CEO of
Yeah,
your own destiny.
yeah.
How was that journey like? The first day that, you know what, I don't have my future is uncertain. That's what entrepreneurship in practical terms is.
Yeah,
you have a vision of what you're trying to do, but as a young entrepreneur, you're sort of un, you want you we say that we're certain about what we're going to build, what it's going to become, but deep inside us, in our hearts, if you really dig deep in there, there's a lot of uncertainty. So how was that like for you? So like you're still living in your car,
yeah,
you were going to be a doctor and now you're not, and then today you're an entrepreneur.
yeah.
Walk us through that a little bit.
Oh man, I did a live on something like this before, but so I'm gonna try. I think I can be able to me be more dialed in on this. But first day, I already wanted to go back to work. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. First day, guys. First week, first month, I was like, entrepreneur sucks. Like what? I was so lost. Because again, I didn't know anything, so I didn't even know who to call or who existed out there in the world to be like, hey, I want to start a clothing brand. You know what I mean? Like, guys, like I knew absolutely. It was spur of the moment. Like, I'm gonna start something so powerful, and then the next morning, I was like, but I don't know where to start. So you know what? I scratched that idea. You know what I mean? And that's the God honest truth. But I think this is something I can hopefully really, hit the nail on the head. Is that when you said it best? Is that there's a lot of uncertainty, but a lot of uncertainty comes from the fact of you not doing. Going back to the support, and entrepreneurs saying like, oh, my family doesn't support me and my friends don't support me, blah blah blah. And then you look back at their history and you ask them like, well, didn't you quit this hobby? Didn't you quit this relationship? Didn't you quit school? Didn't you quit like 20 jobs this year? So those people, rightfully so, in your inner circle, when you say you're going to start a company, they okay, but they're not going to believe you and they're not going to support it. Why? Because it's not because they don't love you, but you haven't given a reason to support you, right? And I think that goes even deeper with personal self. You will not believe in yourself unless you do it. So I tell people all the time, like people entrepreneurs tell me all the time, like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I know that's the point. You don't need belief to start a company. You need to do it and you build the belief later. You know what I mean? Like for me, now I've gone to a point where I say I'm going to do it. It's expected of me, not only for myself, but for my circle. Like anyone who's around me, and I say, hey, I'm going to knock this wall down because my gym's building. Guess what? There's no question about it. A wall's going to get knocked down that day, and I'm going to build the gym bigger. Or hey, guys, I'm going to come up with this design or this product. Guess what? There's no doubt in myself or even in the people around me that's going to happen. But it takes time to get there, guys. Like if you feel like, oh, I can't start because I don't believe in myself, guys, the reason why you don't believe in yourself is because you never started in the first place, nor you probably never did anything in the first place. You know what I mean? So I hope people can really look in the mirror and be like, you know what? Like it's not belief I'm lacking, it's action.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, taking massive action is really the root of success, because you can, like, I think we talked about it offline, you can dream the dream, but if you don't take any action whatsoever to take steps towards that dream is going to stay a dream, and
Yep.
it's never going to happen.
Yep.
There's a book, I googled it right now just to make sure that I have the correct author. It's Cal Newport, about deep work. And I think a lot of times, I was on another podcast interview earlier this week. We were talking about passion, right? Being passionate about something. For you, because you got into entrepreneurship later, you were still really, really young, right? Like in your early 20s, like you're young. You're a baby in the whole grand scheme of things. But I think, one of the key lessons from that book that I picked up for deep work is you do something long enough, you're gonna be passionate about it. Like sometimes thinking of like, oh, I have to be passionate about something before start taking action. I think if you start taking what the book said is, and this is he's one of the youngest tenured professors in university. You put in the work, and the passion is going to come after, right? For you, all your life, like based on what we've discussed so far, work ethic, like cutting grass, working on your acreage and all that stuff. It's putting stuff in you, the work ethic, and you starting a gym. If you think about it, it lines up because that requires massive action for you to be it takes commitment for you to make, like, food, healthy choices and stuff like that, but it also takes massive action for you to be able to actually commit to doing it on a day-to-day basis. So you may not have thought of being an entrepreneur, but all your life, based on what we've discussed so far, led you exactly to where you are today because of your parents or your family instilling the same work ethic in you that you use today, that you're trying to instill through your coaches and the people that surround you and work with you within your brand. So I think that's the most fascinating thing about your story that I've been able to pick up thus far, is everything that you've done so far in life really honed you. I think working it's hard to say because you didn't go to that path. We would never know. But I think, you becoming a, what was it called? A reconstructive surgery surgeon,
So yeah,
you might have found that boring.
yeah. And it's funny you say that. I actually said that maybe a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
Someone asked about it, and and I said those words almost exact. That I don't think I would have been. I'm too. I'm so busy in life right now, and I love and hate. I love and hate every second of it. But I don't think I could have done any other path.
Hmm.
Like now that I look back at it, like there's no way I could have done any other path. Like I just I don't see myself in it. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
yeah.
You're starting a business. You don't know anything about what you're doing. You know something, but of course you're learning as you go. What were some of the challenges that you faced when you first started your Forge brand?
Passing the self doubt first. That's one challenge, because here I am trying to come up with a clothing brand that one I don't know anything about, one I don't know who to talk to, but again came down to quality. Like is anyone gonna like my shirts? Is anyone gonna like my design? Is anyone gonna like my logo? Or you know what I mean? It you know all those little things that like you have self doubt on. It does like hold you back a lot. You know what I mean? And that comes with fear too. Fear of of not only doubt but fear that like or like what's the word like I don't know how to explain it without getting too wordy, but just not just telling myself that no one's gonna like it before even trying. You know. Then again, couple financial. You save $5,000, but you need a six. You know what I mean? And or just like what the heck, or like and even not learning, because guess what? People do take advantage of you when you don't know. And they knew I didn't know anything about the clothing, not because I told them, but I mean I'm sure it was stamped right on my forehead that like I have no idea what I'm doing, so take advantage of me. And something that charges costs only $4, you could charge me 10 because I will not know the difference. You know what I mean? And I feel like I got hit by some of those a couple times throughout my journey. Now I'm like, good try. Do I have stupid written across my forehead? Because no, I don't. You know what I mean? Like, but confidence. I probably came in timid, shaking and sweating and just dripping down my face. But now I'm going there, cool, collective, and I want this, this, and this. Can you do it? No? Okay, bye. You know what I mean? And then they're the ones running after me saying, wait, we can make it happen. I'm like, all right, let's see. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it just takes experience. That's all it is. Anything in life, you get good at it by just practice. You put in enough time, enough years, enough work, enough effort, you're gonna get good at it, no matter what it is. Like if you probably if we started today for the next 15 years, just did edging on the grass,
Hmm.
we would be experts at it. Like we would be the best at it, right? Because we would do it on a day-to-day basis. No
Yep.
one would probably be better than us if they didn't do this. They didn't put in the same work. So that's what you have. And again, going back to your work ethic. Um, Now, years passed. What do you wish that you knew prior to becoming an entrepreneur?
Um, legality stuff. I think.
Okay,
I think.
makes
I
sense.
think low key. I didn't. I wasn't sprinting because as I started getting a little, entrepreneurial in me, it getting in the little veins of mine, I realized that there are things I wasn't doing, but I probably should have done, like maybe copywriting, maybe trademarking. Like I started hearing those words more and being like, I don't think I ever did any of that. And I think when it came to Forge, I knew in my gut that somewhere down the line I was not going to be able to grow Forge, but I did it for another 2 years. You know what I mean? Because I was scared to find out the answer. Again, I told you how much I was held true to it. I finally got that cease and desist, and I think legalities, not knowing, is it safe? Is it okay? Can I run, full sprint, full speed at this project and that project? Like, am I untouchable? Is any other company going to come after me? Like things like, can I be the company that goes after other people? Respectfully. I think that alone, if I would have known that, I probably would be a lot farther because I wouldn't have had that anchor of like, oh, I don't walking on eggshells. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, like I say it all the time. We all have a plan, but once we get punched in that mouth, that plan goes to
Yeah.
goes to the
Who
side.
said that? Who said that? Was that Mike
Mike
Tyson?
Tyson.
Yeah,
Mike
he said
Tyson
everyone
said it.
has a plan to get punched in the face. Or
Exactly.
is it Muhammad Ali? Was it Mike
one
Tyson?
of one
I
of
remember.
them. I won't. I don't want to be punched by either of them. So
Yeah, either one of them I want to be punched. But yeah, I remember I heard that everyone has a plan to get punched in the face, and it's true. And I felt like that's kind of what happened. A couple times. You have a plan, and what I like to say is my saying is, God makes man makes plans, and God laughs. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of so but yeah, I mean, that would be my number one thing is entrepreneurs dive in deep into some of the legalities. You know what I mean? And that might mean you have to invest into that side of the business first, and that's not the fun side of it. Like, sure, you want to, I'm just going to use clothing, sure, you want a clothing brand and you want to put your name on the shirt, but maybe before spending $500, $1,000 or plus on that project, let's probably spend it on some attorneys or some of that, because guess what, once you're untouchable, you can kind of do whatever the heck you want with your company, within its means. So yeah.
correct. I think one tip for young entrepreneurs, or even not young, but somebody that's trying to start out a new line or business, check the domain name. Go to GoDaddy, type in the domain name. If it's taken, most likely, they can go after you because they say they were first to market. They registered this domain name before you did, especially the .com one. So that's one. It's just a easy thing. Like, you don't have to pay for anybody to do that. You can just look at it for yourself. So that's just
Red flags. Mine was forge.fit. So if I would, I mean, forge.fit, guys, come on. I didn't even have like .co or .com or anything.
yeah. I mean, because
Forge.
somebody would have owned Forge.com.
Yeah, and that's what
So
someone made that website for me. No, nothing against them for doing that, but they didn't tell me like, hey, we use forge.fit because forge.com. You know what I mean? I just thought, oh, forge.fit, okay. You know what I mean? Like, again, I had no entrepreneurial experience at all.
yeah, exactly. Well, you live and learn.
Yep.
What would you say has been the most important part thus far of your entire entrepreneurial journey?
It's gonna sound cheesy, but I think showing up, just showing up when days suck, when sales suck, when no one shows up. You know, showing up when personal things happen, showing up when world things happen. You know, that is like the most important part of growing my business for me personally. Growing my business is I have showed up every day, homeless, living in my car, showed up. I haven't told you guys all of them. Sure, I've said some of it in the interview I had with Dave, but I lived in a storage unit, guys. I lived in a storage unit, but I still showed up. I lived in a corner of a garage with cars parked in the garage. I literally had a corner of the garage big enough for a twin mattress, and my bins were storage unit or storage, or my bed frame was storage bins. That was my bed frame. Like, I still showed up. I was in the red in my financials. I still showed up. I've been heartbroken. Little heartbreaks, big heartbreaks. I still showed up. You know what I mean? Like, uh, I would not be here today if I didn't show up.
That's very, very impactful. Seems trivial and small, but super big.
Yeah.
Super, super big. That's, if
Mm.
any if there's any of all of the great things that we've talked about thus far, if nothing else, people hear that. Just show up. I
Just
think
show
that's
up.
that.
Man, it gave me the chills because guys, I showed up on days where I had tears in my eyes, and I
Yeah.
still showed up because I was like, am I doing the right thing? Am I taking the path I need to take? Am I ever going to succeed? And even with those thoughts in my head, I showed up. And again, this goes back to previous what we talked about. Eventually, it's not the belief that you need to start a business; it's the action.
Mhm.
So when I showed up 365 days in a row, I started to believe, that I could show up another 365 days in a row. And when I did it there, I was like, you know what? It's the action steps that strengthened my belief. And when I did, and another next year came, I was like, I believe I could do it again. And I did it again. You know what I mean? So it's not belief, guys. It's not belief that you need. It's action first. And then the action will strengthen your belief.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, if you had one superpower, you could
Mm-hmm.
have one. What would
Mm-hmm.
it be? But before you answer that, let's take a quick break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Thinkin' Local, a fundraising and giving-based marketing platform whose mission is to connect local Main Street businesses who care about making an impact in the local community with schools and nonprofits who believe in supporting their local businesses. Find out more by visiting local.com. And we're back, digging for gold on the Behind Main Street podcast.
So, Jay, if you could have just one superpower, what would that be?
Oh my god, I feel like that's the hardest question you've asked me. Okay. Can I make if I had one superpower? Can I make the world of Harry Potter real? And I would have to
Of
definitely be a
course.
Slytherin wizard. So
A
that would be my one.
Slytherin
Like a
wizard.
snap of my finger, I just became one of the most powerful wizards of Harry Potter. That's my superpower.
Wow. Wow. That's fascinating.
And as a wizard, I can make anything I want true.
You could. You could, right? It's
There it
fascinating.
is.
I mean, to people that don't follow or have never would I would find weird that don't know about Harry Potter, who would you say is the most powerful wizard other than he who should not be named?
There's Dumbledore. Dumbledore is
Okay.
powerful. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean,
Is Dumbledore a villain or is he a hero?
he's a hero. I think he's a
Okay. All
hero.
right. All right.
Is there talk about him being a villain? I'm
No, no,
curious.
I was just curious because, um, the way his sister passed away, him
Oh
having that riff with his brother and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
this is a little bit probably most people don't know about
Yeah.
that.
I,
I mean,
I,
not
I
that I
do believe
go ahead, please.
I believe that those moments in his life are what led him to be the Dumbledore of Hogwarts. You know what I mean? So could he have? It was young adult mistakes, but no. Honestly, though, seriously, superpowers. I really don't know if I could make a real. Besides, I was just writing down that Harry Potter joke, but again, cheesy. But imagine having a superpower of succeeding at everything you do.
Wow,
You
the
know,
Midas
maybe
touch in a way.
like yeah, like just know you just. But then again, the problem with superpowers is I feel like it makes life boring. Because if I knew I could succeed in anything, like I wouldn't even want to get up. Like why would I get
True.
up for? I'm gonna succeed in anything. So it's just like a but so I guess it would have to be something less powerful than that. Maybe I don't know. See, this is you got me. This is the hardest question. So let's go back to Harry Potter. I just want to make Harry Potter a real and I want to become a powerful wizard. There it is.
There you go. I think I read somewhere, I watched somewhere that inside in each side, each and every one of us, there's a fear of death, and that fear of death is what keeps us motivated in walking and getting up every single morning. Because if we knew the day that we're going to die or that we would live forever, then those days would be insignificant to us. So I think, in line to what you were saying about being successful, like knowing that you would be successful at anything that you did might do you a disservice than it is that you would, succeed more or do more things, right?
Can I build off that real quick? And I don't mean to be the devil's advocate. I actually don't think I fear death. It never have. Like I
Okay.
don't think that's ever been a fear for me. I fear more not having an impact
Okay. Yeah.
before I die. And I know that
Gotcha.
sounds crazy. Like, but if I die tomorrow, like I would only regret dying tomorrow because I don't think my job is done yet. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But if I built the business, if I have that EXUVUS compound, if I've changed millions of lives in their fitness journey, in their mindset journey, in their business journey, and like I'm ready to take my last breath, I would not fear that. I think I would be like, dang, about freaking time. I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like I'm exhausted, guys. Like I did my thing, and that's the God honest truth. I fear not having an impact before I die, way more than death. And I think going to what you're saying though is that is what keeps me going because I
Hmm.
don't want to die tomorrow because I have so much work to do still.
Yeah, without having to fulfill your mission in life.
Yes.
So, in line with that, in your opinion, what would you say is the most crucial personality trait that any entrepreneur needs to have to succeed?
Um. Um. Oh, I think I just heard this, and it fits in line. And I don't know if it's a personality trait, but it might be if you fit it in that way. Is don't be a know it all, be a learn it all. As an entrepreneur, guys, you do not know anything, and nor you never will, and that's okay. I think knowing that, I think coming to terms with not knowing that you're not going to know everything opens your heart and your mind, cast your ego aside and your pride aside, and you're going to learn from the people who can teach you. Not everyone has something knowledgeable to say, so use power of discernment. But if you're willing to be if you're willing to not be a know-it-all and willing to be a learn-it-all, I think you can go very far in your field, in your career.
Fascinating. That's really, really good. I love that. I took note of that. I'm gonna have that. That's a good poster to have, man.
There it is. There you go. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. What would you consider your at this point your biggest failure? And did that teach you anything?
Yes, you know what? You caught me in a good part of my career, in my path, in my journey. I mean, my biggest failure is trying to carry the weight of the world. Um, you know, whether that was the business, whether that was personal stuff, and emotional, mental, like carrying it all without being upfront and honest. So without, how do I say this? Without addressing the pain points. So, for instance, if I felt like someone was, um, uh, not pulling their weight, rather than me just working harder and harder and harder and harder to pick up their slack and just putting it on my back to say I'm just gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, versus saying, hey, you know what? Addressing the situation and say, hey, look, what's going on? Can I help you? I'm acknowledging that you're not pulling your weight, and I want you to acknowledge it too. You know what I mean? Or maybe it was with a significant other. Like whatever that may be. I'm talking from experience and not addressing the situation and just putting it on my back, putting it on my back. And again, it did lead me to a point where I collapsed with that weight. I had the weight of the world on my back, and I'm only human. I was not going to last very long. But so my biggest regret is doing that because I think it has hindered my growth many times over and has ruined relationships many times over. And I think that if I had learned the skill to say, hey, you know what, let me have the courage, because it takes courage. It does. Some of us, we don't want to address situations because we're afraid to do so. So address those pain points, guys, because you're only human and you don't need to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. What you need to do is carry your company to the top, or carry whatever is important to you to the top, not all the other BS. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's great
So
advice. Well, if you could make just one mistake over again, what would
hmm,
that be, and how would you do things a little bit differently this time around?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't. I guess the same mistake that I made that led me back on this path. which was having a little bit of pride and ego
Mm-hmm.
that led me to say I am self what's the word, sufficient. Like I can make it happen on my own, and I boast in my chest. You know what I mean? I think that little mistake, it can be done multiple times. Now I'm not telling people that their poop don't stink. You know what I mean? But I'm saying that if I can continue to like maybe sometimes be overly confident or overly prideful, you know what I mean? I think sometimes we need that little bit just to be like, push us over the hump, if that makes
Yes.
sense. And push us
Mm-hmm.
over the hump, and then we can reevaluate. Like, all right, maybe I don't need, maybe I don't need to be so prideful.
For sure, for sure. Is there someone or something that you turn to now when you feel stuck?
You know what? I think that person changes between the situations.
Okay.
And I again use your power of discernment. I think that's the importance of having a tight knit circle. Not everyone can do any everything. You know what I mean? And nor should you find anyone who could say this is my number one problem solver. But if you have a great circle and a healthy relationship with everyone in your tight circle, you will know who can handle what the best.
So what drives you to keep going every day? Those 365 days showing up, showing up, showing up. Where do you get that drive? What is that drive when the going gets really tough?
I would like to coin this phrase, but it's that I built a habit of working hard when things got hard.
Hmm.
So when the going gets tough, I've already instilled the habit of working hard when things get hard, and to build off of that, I've also have a standard with myself and with people in my circle that again, when I say I'm going to do it, I have to get it done. Like I have to get it done. There's no ifs and there's no question. If I say I'm going to show up 365 days, you best believe there are people who are holding me accountable, to show up 365 days, you know, um, regardless of hardships or not. So I think that's what keeps me going is the fact that I created such a powerful message that, like, for instance, I tell people, even me as a CEO of the company, I'm not above the standard of EXUVUS, meaning that if the standard's up here, I will always be here chasing the standard. And I feel sorry for anybody when I reach this standard because once I reach that standard, guess what happens? The
Standard goes
standard
up.
goes back up here again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So guess what? If you're not keeping up with me and you're down here, you're gonna be like, oh my god, you're gonna be like this skyscraper just got taller. You know what I mean? So I think that's what keeps me going is that I knew intentionally. I said, all right, how high can I make this so that way I can work towards it? And then what happens when I reach it? I'm gonna make sure that it just triples in size again. You know what I mean? So I can't afford to not show up.
For sure. What has been your biggest aha moment in life?
Exodus. The name, it just came. It. You should have seen me. I was like a kid in the candy store when I came up with it. I was running around and I was just like Exodus, Exodus, Exodus. I was just throwing it at everything. It was the biggest. It has been the biggest aha moment. The word itself and the message but it all came together. Like again, I did all the work to deserve a company with such a powerful message.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self today,
Mhm.
what advice would you give 18-year-old Jay?
Stay away from her. She's crazy. I'm,
All right.
I'm kidding. You know what? I know what I would say because I tell a lot of now when I say young, I'm actually referring to age. Is that if you're in your parents' household, do as your parents say.
Hmm.
If they say jump, you say how high. If they are paying your bills, I hate to say it, but shut up and work hard. Like
Hmm.
be grateful. If I could tell my 18-year-old self, like, look, you can do it the hard way, or you could do it the easy way. You're gonna get there. Which one do you prefer? You know what I mean? And I already know my 18-year-old self is gonna be stupid and say, "Oh, I'll just do it the hard way anyway." So, but if I could slap the 18-year-old face and make him turn the other direction, I would do that because again, I believe I would have gone here. I think I had it in me. you know. But again, could I have done it the easy way? I could have done it the hard way. But then again, you debate, well, the journey led me to who I am today. But to each their own. But so it's a catch 22. But in the end of the day, I think if I could tell an 18-year-old that you don't know it all, have respect, have humility. You don't have enough experience in life to think you deserve anything, that you know anything. You know what I mean? That you are above any standard that's already exists. Like, now again, there are some things that you might, without getting. I hope people can use again their power of discernment, what I'm referring to. But
For
at
sure.
18 years old, you're 18. Let's be real. You're only 18. Stop acting like you have this wisdom of years. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, for a CEO that has a lot of hats to wear, running your
Mhm.
company, running your gym, running a brand, doing all these things. What is your favorite productivity hack?
Have a priority checklist. You know, have a priority checklist, meaning like I'm not big on like at 6 o'clock you have to wake up and do this, and this. For me, it's like, what are your priorities? Like, I want to make sure I always work out. I want to make sure I'm eating clean. I want to make sure that I check my emails or read a book. Like, I have a priority list, and I think because of that, I'm able to have a system. And eventually, when you do it long enough, I know that if I work out in the midday where no one else is in my gym, like, I work out the best there. I know that if I read a book every day, I know the best time to read a book is more in the evenings when I'm done with my day. You get what I'm saying? So eventually it does fall into a routine, but the priority is not a routine. The priority is what's my actions that are going to make my steps, or my journey of bettering myself the best possible journey.
Gotcha. If you were granted three wishes right now, what would you wish for?
One would be finances, I guess.
Okay.
I won't even put a number on it, but just finances.
Hmm.
Two, uh, um, happiness. I think, I when I say happiness, I do mean like, uh, being able to be grateful, or be grateful. Happiness, I think happiness comes from being grateful. How far I've come, who I have around my circle, what my company has done, what it potentially will do. You know what I mean? There's a whole sense of like, I think we get so, as entrepreneurs, we get so tied up in the 24/7, 24/7, 24/7, and then we end up hating life. We end up hating the people surrounding us. We end up hating our freaking company, ourselves, because we don't have that sense of gratefulness. Like, where it's like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of grateful. Like, I got A, B, and C done today, and you know what? That feels good. You know what I mean? I think, and my third wish is, to always keep my magnificent hair. I don't want to lose it. No, I don't know. You put me on the spot on this. It's so hard. I don't know. Can we just keep that? I'll keep that wish. Some of you guys probably can or can't see because I have my hair in a bun, but if you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys will be able to see my luscious hair.
Well, they will see because the thumbnail of I already prepared your thumbnail for this episode. They're gonna see it.
Oh, they're gonna see it. Okay,
They're gonna
so
see it.
you guys are gonna be like, that wish. It makes sense. No,
Yeah, for sure.
can I just say, in all joking aside, if I had to really wish for, like, that last wish, to allow my company to make the impact that it's supposed to make.
Great wish. Great,
I
great,
think
great wish.
whatever that means, whatever journey that, if it means I have to go through hell and back and walk on lava, or hot rocks, or broken glass, or be backstabbed, like, it doesn't matter. I don't care the journey, but I do want it to. The point is, I want Exodus to be able to make the impact that it's meant to make.
Can you recommend three books for our audience that has helped you?
Okay, Think and Grow Rich. Obviously, I think you have to read it. Rework. Oh, Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Like, guys, I think some of us, some of so many entrepreneurs want to do it for the cool, Instagram post. That that cannot be your. If that is your why, guys, you guys are in for a long you guys are in for a long journey. You know what I mean? But yes, Start with Why would be one of the best books. Any of the Gary Vee books, Crush It or Crushing It, is pretty good. Yeah,
Jab, jab, right hook is good for from Gary Vee as well.
yeah,
Give, give, give
yes.
before you ask for something in return.
One of my favorite quotes from Gary Vee is, "You aren't lost. You're just earning early in the process." And I think that is one of my favorite quotes to date, because I feel, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs can feel this. You feel lost. You feel, you're defeated. But guys, you guys just started. You know what I mean? Like, again, like going back to your first question of like, how did it feel when you first started? And I was like, I want to quit the next day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're early in the process. But any of the Tim Grover books, poof, both his books that he came out, oh, fire, fire.
Relentless is one of his really, really good books. For those that don't know, Tim Grover, he was a trainer for for Michael Jordan and a lot of high end athletes.
Yeah, just I could show, I could literally walk over there. I don't want to mess up the lighting I have going on here, but I have
For
a
sure.
lot of books. I have a lot of books, guys, that I read, and Audible too, and podcasts, and so. But anyways, hopefully that list can suffice.
For sure, for sure, for sure. So now what are you most looking forward to, your future as an entrepreneur?
Mm. Um, Learning how to systematize a company. Like, I want to be able to again, when you're an entrepreneur, your goal. I want to always be in the trenches. Like, I want to grind and work with my employees, and if I ask for it, because I'm willing to do it. But there is a time where I kind of want to be able to not have to always be in the trenches. You know what I mean? I want to be able to have an In-N-Out or a McDonald's where, like, you go in there and it's exactly the same thing. This set there, and there, and any franchise for that fact. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to franchise my company, uh, where again, I don't have to be there overseeing everything 24/7. I have people in place that can do the job better than me, and people who are watching to make sure that happens.
For sure. If I could recommend a book, if you haven't read it, is E-Myth, the revisited version by Michael Gerber. It talks about operating systems and of a company, of a business, and they talk
No,
about.
write that down real quick. What was it again?
It's called E-Myth.
E-Myth. Okay.
Yeah, and do the revisited version.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever's the latest version, because he wrote that book back, a little bit whiles back, before the new advent of information age, social media, internet, and stuff like that. But that book talks about systems, talks about being able to walk away from your business, because the biggest thing there is it's not a business until you can actually leave it. Right, it's because you're trading time for money at that point. But when you get those systems in place, like a McDonald's, you then are able to scale much, much bigger and allow you to fulfill your dream and fulfill the purpose of that business, because it doesn't require you anymore. Because if something happens to you, God forbid, then your vision dies with you. But if you're able to create a system that fulfills that ethos, fulfills that culture for everybody else around you, and anybody that you bring in, they're held to that standard, and there's a system in which you can be able to test and hold people accountable to that standard, because of the system that they're able to build. So that book is highly, highly recommended.
I appreciate that. I will get on that right ASAP. So thank you.
For sure. Is there any question that you wish I'd asked you that I didn't get a chance to?
Yeah. What do I use for my mustache? Because this
Yes.
looks
What do you
good.
use for your mustache? What do you do, like the I mean, my hairline is thinning, and getting higher and higher. What's your secret? Is it like a type of shampoo?
Oh man. Okay. First off, my forehead has turned into a five head. So check it out. Look at that. That's glaring. The light is shining on. So it's don't I have no secrets. But if you want to talk to my friend Chelsea, um, she is very knowledgeable in Monet products, and she has got me on Monet. So
Very
hopefully, if I
nice.
come back and my five head has turned back into a forehead, then you guys know this product works. But no, I honestly, I feel like you've asked amazing questions. I'm more nervous that I didn't know if I talked too much or if I answered your questions to the fullest. So I'm actually, I have nothing to you. If anything, yeah, you did amazing.
Well, there's no right or wrong answer in this podcast. It's your answer, whether people find that long, short, whatever the case may be. This is you speaking to them. And for them, for our listeners, all of us, including myself, get the value from what it is that you're talking about and all the insights and gold nuggets that you were able to impart on us. We certainly appreciate it for you to be able to kind of get vulnerable and tell us and take us behind the scenes, like I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, and take a look and dive into your business, into your life, into whatever it is that led you to wherever it is that you were to where you are today.
Okay. Well,
In,
then I hope that I did a good job at it.
for you have. In closing, what is, if you can give our listeners one piece of practical advice that you can share in their journey of entrepreneurship?
Oh man. Okay. I like to paint this picture. So it's a picture. It would be
Please.
10 seconds. Is this: if you catch yourself wondering why you're in a plateau,
Mm.
okay, paint this picture in your head. All right. So picture you an artist staring in front of a blank canvas. Okay, and you walk by that artist every day, and you walk by, and the canvas is still blank, and the canvas is still blank, and the canvas is still blank, and you finally say, you ask the artist, like, what are you doing? Like, why haven't you drawn anything? And they look at you and say, well, I'm not going to start drawing until I'm good at it, right? The moral of the story is there's never a perfect time. Everyone's always waiting for the everyone's always waiting for this to do that, and that to do this. Everyone's always waiting for that perfect opportunity. Everyone's always waiting for that divine call. Like, guys, you'll never get good at something, and those doors will never open up for you unless you start. So, if I feel like if you are wondering, like, man, I'm not growing, are you being that artist that's staring at a blank canvas, waiting to get good? You know what I mean? And I think for me, and I'm only using this story because I started implementing that thought process about 5 years ago. And I thought to myself, because I always fell under the trap of, I have to wait, I have to wait, I have to wait until I'm good. Like, I'm not going to record anything until I'm good. I'm not going to do lives on Instagram until I'm good. I'm not going to, start, this project of my business until I'm good at, like, what the heck, And then again, so if you were to ask that artist, in all honesty, how silly would that question or that their answer be? That, like, I'm not waiting. I'm gonna wait to draw, paint, whatever the case may be, until I'm good. So don't fall under that trap, because there's never going to be a perfect, like, setting. We have to do with action.
Amazing advice. Amazing, amazing, amazing advice.
I
Jay,
appreciate that.
where can listeners learn more about you and your business?
You know what? I have some haters on my out there, so they took down my Instagram of EXUVUS, but I'm working to get it back. So I'm coming. And when I say haters, I mean I literally woke up and the page was gone. No, no emails, no nothing. Blah blah blah. What? It just gone. Like, it doesn't even exist in the world. Whatever, doesn't matter. I'm still growing. I'm still grinding. I still show up every day. But honestly, it doesn't matter, because if you follow my personal page at JAYD Perez, JD Perez, you will get to follow my journey, and ask me any questions, and watch my crazy videos, and also my informative videos. But I'm very raw, and I think I do have a superpower that God gave me, and that is power of no shame. So I think because of that superpower, I am able to be myself 100% and not even care, because I'm just me and having a good time and enjoying this crazy journey we call life.
Wonderful. Well, I'll definitely link that on the description of this episode. Thank you so much, Jay, for being such a great guest on the show and for giving me and our listeners actionable and practical nuggets that we can apply not only to our business, but on our day to day life. I would like to please invite our listeners to please connect with Jay from EXUVUS. Like I said, I'm going to link to his information on the bio, on the description of this video and on this episode. I will have his information there. Also, I want to request you to connect with me if you want to be a guest on this show or want to suggest a guest on this show, somebody as good or even, give us a lot more insights than what Mr. Jay Perez was able to give us. I think that will be a tall order. But if you do, please do share and share that with me. Also, I would like to request you to please do share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would very much appreciate your honest feedback, which helps me continually provide impactful content that I hope you all will find valuable. And always remember that every day that you face adversity, think of it as an opportunity to find the gold inside you. Until next time, have a great and success-filled day. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Behind Main Street podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Remember to visit www.behindmainstreet.com.